talk a little bit about coronavirus then. You can't really get away from it at the moment, can you? Got to talk about it.
It affects us. So, it has to be in there somewhere, I guess, because it is affecting the way we are leading our lives right now.
Yeah. I mean, something that we talked about in the last Outcast was hoping that the accessibility that's been gained, though, through this doesn't fall away. Because I know that Emily was saying, she can go to church every Sunday now because they have virtual church now, and she couldn't before. And for a lot of autistic people, things like that, things like being able to do Zoom meetings instead of traveling into a city centre or what have you, and particularly if they've got physical co-occurring conditions, I think is huge. And I just hope that we've learned some lessons about accessibility from this, really.
Absolutely. There's two threads to that. I'm not going to say that I'm grateful for coronavirus, because obviously we've lost thousands of lives, and the strain on the NHS and the economy. But I'm actually hoping there is a silver lining. I think out of everything there can be a silver lining. First of all, I think we're looking out for our neighbours a lot more, which is particularly important if you've got vulnerable people in your community. But for thinking work and employment and education, everybody has had to have a kind of jumping off the edge of the cliff experience of what it's like to work from home and educate from home, which many autistic parents have to do every day, because the school system isn't set up for autistic kids, and often employment was quite rigid. You wake up and then you go to the office for 9 and then you work there till 5. And I think now this is going to really broaden what employment looks like, which will have accessibility for people that are finding travel hard or just simply need to do things at their own pace in their own time. It's very interesting. That's for adults and for young people. I mean, any of the best work I've done is probably at 3 a.m. in the morning. I didn't think you'd want to do this at 3 a.m, but
I tend to be a night owl myself, honestly. I hate mornings, which is why I said 2 o'clock, because to me, even Zoom at 10 or 11, I'm like, not my best.
And whether that's to do with being comfortable, because I'm not in a suit under some bright lights with lots of noise and smells going on, but I'm at home in my dressing gown or my comfy PJs, and able to actually think rather than survive. And I think that's very similar for our young people as well. I did a Twitter poll. I'm not a bright academic like you, Emma, but I do dabble in research. A Twitter poll, and
it's still research, Carly. Don't demean yourself. It's still research.
I'll use the stats anyway. Not that I can remember them offhand, but it basically, I think it was 60. It could have been 61. I'm probably good. It was definitely over 50. About 61% of people said that their children were actually less anxious, more calm in a global pandemic than in school. That's very good, isn't it? So I asked parents of non-autistic children the same, and they were in the high 50s. So actually, but not just autistic children or autistic adults, but actually for everyone, the school system ain't working. Not for our mental health anyway, perhaps for grades, but not for mental health. And I think that's got a lot to answer for. But yeah, hopefully that will be the silver lining. Employment will become more accessible. Flexi time for work, flexi time for schools, I think too. So here's hope.
I hope so. Certainly for us, as you said, you don't want to say, oh, I'm grateful for the situation. Obviously not. The circumstances that this has happened in are horrific. But for us personally as a family, I'm chilled, I'm happy. I feel like I'm getting time to reorganize things that have built up on me while I've been trying to keep up with the demands of life a bit. For Mia, I mean, she's hated school since she went to secondary. It's been really, really difficult for her to manage. And she's so happy now, you know, and I'm dreading her going back. And I sort of had a CAMHS appointment over the phone for her. And they said, how's she coping? Or I said, she's great, you know, she's absolutely great. And they said that a lot of the autistic children, not all obviously, a lot of the autistic children were doing better, though a lot of the ones that were more predominantly ADHD were struggling with the confinement more. So there is a real sort of, for me, it almost feels like my non-autistic friends are in the boat that I'm normally in, if that makes sense.
So that's
it's almost like they are desperately wanting to go out and all of that, whereas a lot of the time I'm desperately wanting a break and to stay in and, you know, recoup. So it's almost like, and I'm just, I don't know, I've been kind of waiting for something terrible to hit me, some anxiety or something, and obviously I am anxious, but not as much as usual, even though I probably should be. It's, you know. Yeah.
Do you think, Emma, I'm going to be interviewing you now. Do you think, Emma, that this is going to change the way that you work or the things that you say yes and no to? Because I know I am after this. I think it's really helped me realise what is priority in personal life and in work life. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I will. I find it very hard to say no, which has been an ongoing problem, and my partner gets really irritated with me because he's like, and particularly when I do a lot of free work, you know, as you can imagine, you're the same, because you want to make a change, so you do a lot of free work. And he's going, well, if you're this exhausted and you can't keep up with your daily life at home, you know, maybe don't take on so much free work.
So it's interesting because that free work always has a cost to us, doesn't it? As autistic people, as autistic adults, although it's oh, well, this is free, the cost to us is ginormous. So because you're not very good at saying no, I'm going to give you a top tip.
Okay.
And I got this top tip actually from my mum.
Brilliant.
Not because I had the social imagination or wisdom to think of this, but the top tip is, if when you're doing paid work, which obviously there's an element of free work because there are some people that just cannot afford to be supported and no one's going to get a no, you know. So but when people come along and say, you know, that really can afford to pay you for your time and experience, always think to yourself, right, after this, if I was too exhausted to sort the house out, or if I was in need of some childcare, either for doing the work or and childcare hard as they get older, but it's still childcare, you know, always fit that in before your price, because that's often the cost of it, isn't it? Is you think, oh gosh, I've done all this, but wow, the ironing hasn't been done, or the laundry, you know, there's a huge to our families to it. So be kinder to yourself on that one. And I bet even when you add up all the costs, it'd still be under what they were going to pay you anyway.
Probably, that is true. There's a huge amount, you know, and I think it's hard when you're autistic and all the parents of autistic children. There's very little separation between life and work.
Yeah, it's one thing. Yeah.
So if I get an inbox with a new article about autism, am I reading it for work, or am I reading it because I'm interested, because it affects my life? And I think that's the thing, my social media now is not like downtime anymore, or, you know, and I was talking about this in a Zoom meeting this week, and I was saying, if you're an autistic advocate, it's very hard to go into the community and into the support groups and ask for help or vent, or you know, you have to be professional
everywhere.
So you kind of cut off that avenue to yourself in a way. and you can only really get that with other trusted autistic people then. But again, every bit of advice that you give or take is a cost to one of you, isn't it?
Yeah, you're quite right. I had a session with her, so I get, although I'm an independent person, I do get supervision, and someone from the NHS does that in an independent capacity as a volunteer for me, which is so good of them, because as an advocate, you're going to hear horrible things. And you're going to hear many different horrible things every day, and because of confidentiality, you can never speak to anyone about that. And even if you just want to have a bit of a laugh and joke online, the minute somebody who is in need of help, and that's fine, but the minute somebody sees you online, then there's another ask for help, and it feels that there is no safe space to just be you.
Exactly.
And to just go, I want a bit of a laugh now. I need time where I've got that hat off. But because advocacy is so much about our family life, so much about us as individuals, and our work rolled into one, the thought of just being able to be a bit frivolous and funny, you cannot, because the responsibility, I think, for us as advocates, which I'm sure you've come across time and time again, even if you want to have a bit of a laugh and a joke at yourself, you can't, because if you're advocating for other autistic adults, people will automatically think that's what you think of other people. And so I'm really self-derogatory. I like taking the mickey out of myself. I find some weird pleasure out of that, but you can't, because people are like, oh, so you think that then? I'm thinking, no, I'm just having a joke. And I'm just like, I need somewhere to joke. And I think that's why I'm missing the in-person conferences, because it's the only time you can say really silly things and everyone in the room gets it.
Yeah.
So I'm missing having the banter with fellow autistic adults, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think, for me and for a lot of my friends, I have a really dark humour, and I think it's a survival mechanism. So I like to say really, dark things sometimes, dark humour and all of that, sarcasm, even though people think that we can be sarcastic.
But I can't understand other people's quick enough. Eventually I do, not quick enough, but I think I'm probably not. I think I'm very good at being sarcastic, but other people might. Often people like, I say, I can't believe you just said that. I'm like, I was being sarcastic, but obviously I'm not doing the phone. I don't know, but yeah, idiosyncratic humour, that's called. It's on my diagnosis notes.
Really?
It's bad, isn't it, when you're clinically idiosyncratic? So I have to really watch myself. Sometimes I tweet something, better delete that quick. I'm going to lose it somewhere for that. Because just that dark humour.
And the thing is, I think even when you think a post through to the nth degree, you rewrite it, you make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt there are people out there waiting to dissect it and find an angle. So when you are then being humorous, even if it's at your own expense, it's a can of worms that it opens up. It's you can't do it. It's so difficult. So yeah, my social media now, I don't post a lot. I'll sometimes nip in and out and lurk a little bit, but you do get flooded, like you said, with messages and things, and it's a lot of emotional labor. And particularly, and I'm sure you find this as well, when you're doing research, when you're learning about autism, when you're engaging in these things, you come across, like you said, so many horrible things. In the research for the birth process as an autistic woman, all I came across were lots of things about what causes autism, how can we prevent it, all that kind of stuff. And it was really difficult some days to kind of be detached and logical about it and just think, oh, here they go again. Like
it's very upsetting, isn't it, when there are people throwing buckets of money, time and years of their life at preventing us.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hurtful thing to read day in, day out. part and parcel of it. But it's so yes, and right. And the next time on that, remember this, because the next time you say, "Oh, I'll do it for a tenner," or whatever, remember all the years doing your masters. I mean, I have no GCSEs, but for you, Emma, all the years doing your masters and everything, and all of the emotional toll that's taken. That's part of your. That's part of your fee, because you know it's a very unkind world when we're going out there without our personal hat on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I will say that I think that the way that my being autistic kind of impacts me, it gives me a quality of being able to detach and be logical to an extent, and you know, to detach that emotion a little bit. But there are days, I think, you know, not all the time, but there are days when you think, oh, I can't switch the button off today, you know, it's really getting to me.
I think you're quite right, because we can compartmentalize what we're hearing and seeing and work from home and so, you know, in our minds at least, perhaps not physically, but in our minds. But yeah, you're quite right. If you're having a down day, or you're just exhausted, it hits you really hard. Then maybe a bit of emotional processing thrown in there as well, and it's really, really tough, really tough. So I just, sometimes people will message say, "Oh, I want to be an advocate. How can I be an advocate?" I'm like, "Don't do it. Don't. Save yourself. Run.
Back away." Yeah, I mean, and this is something that I see coming up a lot more in people that I talk to that are advocates, something that I've been talking to them about, and you know, seeing that there is a thing as well where, you know, I think people in the community, once you become an advocate, they don't seem to realize that you're a person too, and you need downtime, and that it's okay for you to say, really sorry, but I can't give you advice on that right now, you know. And you feel rude, don't you? You think, oh, this person needs help, I have to help them. But if you're exhausted, then it's really difficult, and you know, you're dealing with your own stuff as well. And I think a lot of us, we come into this just because we want to make a change. We're not some sort of super equipped advocacy superheroes, you know, we're just doing our best. And then all of a sudden you're in this position where you're trying to be a role model and trying to be, you know, it's a lot of responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's I think you're right, because particularly, you know, thinking even 10 years ago, you know, we certainly weren't believed that I had 2 autistic daughters, because autism only happens to boys. That's what I was told. Ridiculous. So so looking how far we've come in 10 years is very exciting. And I often think, actually, where we are now to how we were 10, 12, 15 years ago, I think, you know, I wouldn't have, obviously my social imagination is not great, but I would never have imagined it to be so much awareness out there now. And it's a wonderful thing. And there are sometimes I sit and think, well, maybe I should go back to being a cleaner again, because I've done what you know, I've helped us as a community do what I wanted to do. Maybe I should stop. But like you said, it's a bit addictive, because now it's like, oh, okay, well, our legal system could be better, and our guidelines and our laws could be better, and now people believe it exists. There's our healthcare could be better, and this could be better, and it's a Pandora's box, isn't it?
It is. In my mind, I'm kind of like, right, healthcare first, then law, then you know, it's kind of in my head. I've got like a checklist. Like, it sounds really egotistical in a way. It's not. I don't think I'm going to like solve the world's ills, but what I want to focus on, you know, I'd love to do a PhD on healthcare. On the one hand, I would. On the other hand, I'm like, but but you know, there was the potential to a degree to look at the legal aspects for a PhD, and I was like, it's not that I wouldn't want to. It's just that healthcare is like number one at the moment for me. So I'd love to do that, but I think there's always something else to solve, or someone else to help, or
it's Is that a coffee?
No, that is Coke, but my coffee's gone cold as it usually does. I make a coffee and then it goes cold.
So it's interesting, because this is, again, not scientific research, but every time I'm with an autistic woman, they have a Diet Coke, which is good because I always have a Diet Coke. Everywhere I go, I've got a Diet Coke in my bag. Other fizzy drinks are available, but I do, and I think actually maybe we should get Diet Coke to maybe sponsor the Lorna Wing Centre or something, because I mean the amount we've got glasses and a Diet Coke. And there you go. That's why I was like, that coffee, and it's not. It's Diet Coke.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I've got a bit of an addiction, if I'm honest. Seriously. I'm like, people are like, you should drink more water. And I'm like, what?
It doesn't feel something in it. Maybe it's like, maybe Diet Coke is like the catnip for us autistic women. Maybe there's something in it.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
It's interesting though. I was saying, some of the like commonalities that I've seen in autistic women are things like having kind of statementy glasses, having brightly coloured hair, or it seems to be, to me, I kind of wonder if it's because we felt like we repressed aspects of ourselves for so long that we're like, have it. I don't know.
Have it all.
Noticed that.
I quite enjoy it. I think my thing from having years of that kind of I was quite wacky when I was younger with dress, where I wear a dress and stuff. But I think for me, I think autistic people are the most underestimated people in the world, and that can be quite a good advantage, because actually people might go, oh, it can happen two ways. It can either be, oh, this person's autistic, therefore I'm going to try and get one over on them, or have this, all these kind of things. And when you figure them out, they don't like it. So there's that unexpected. Or you might do a really good bit of work and someone's like, oh, how did you do that? Who helped you? All of that kind of stuff. And if you do something quite good, people are generally shocked because you're autistic. Or there's the other way around it, because it's not a visible disability. One of my favourite things is for people that don't know that I'm autistic, when I first meet them, particularly in meetings and stuff, I love listening to how other non-disabled people might talk about people with disabilities or different conditions, and I love listening to that. And then the minute that they might say something which is particularly awful, I might just go, oh, yes, I'm autistic, and I love doing that. So I think what I tend to do is I dress as normal as possible, and then just wait, just bide my time. Oh, look at me, I'm blending in. Look at me. Oh, yes, and then I'm so normal, and then I unleash it on them, and I've got pearls on. I'm very normal, and then I just and I love it.
Yeah.
I love. If I'm going to be underestimated, I'm going to enjoy it. If you're going to be weird, you've got to be confident about it. Perhaps I'm not that confident, so I will dress. I will fit in nicely to society, and then shock you with what comes out of my mouth. That's just my little kick. That's how I exist, Emma.
I tend to be terrified of what might come out of someone's mouth, so I'm kind of like, I'm autistic, just so you know. Don't say anything horrible. Because I feel their embarrassment then, as if it's my own. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that in front of me, and that's mortifying, and I can't deal with it. So I kind of try to preempt it.
Never apologise for being different, because assholes never apologise for being assholes. Okay? So just enjoy it. Yeah. Don't worry about that, because they don't really care.
True. That is true. I'm probably feeling the embarrassment that they're not feeling, but yeah.
Not your embarrassment. You're okay.
I'm embarrassed for them.
Hyper-emphasize.
I think I have been in meetings sometimes where people have said certain things and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, I hope my face is not portraying what I'm thinking right now. And what is my face doing? Because
I once went somewhere to do quite an important panel, and someone come up to me and asked me, I mean, it was mainly men as well. It was a man that came up to me and asked me to if I was hosting and to get a cup of tea and all that.
no way. Oh
that was waitress.
No, go and get your own tea.
No, but actually, no. See, that's what you should do. Yeah, you should go. No, I'm sorry, I'm here to do this, whatever, very important, and make your own tea. But I don't. I will make them the cup of tea first, act really submissive, and then just wait for them to sit down and then get on with the job. That's the better way to do it, because then you haven't been like, I'm making you your cup of tea. You go, okay, I'll make you a cup of tea. Now sit down. I love it, and it's. Oh gosh, I am awful. I'm oversharing, but yeah, I prefer to do it that way, because then you can just see the penny drop, and you're like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, the complete opposites there. I can't deal with it. I'm just like, oh my god, that's so terrible. I probably would make the tea just not to cause any confrontation and then just be mortified by the whole thing.
Whenever you go to a talk, one of the best things to do is sit in the audience first, have a chat, and then get up and do your talk. Because what people tend to do is they will talk about going, oh, well, I remember sitting in one of them, someone's going, oh, well, are you sure you want to see this one, or do you want to go and see the other one? I don't think this one's as good as the other one, right? I don't think this speaker's going to be as good as the other one, but you know, we're more interested in this topic, and that's my favourite, because then you're like, yeah, it's fun. Do it. If you've got a thick skin, do it, because it's maybe I'm mildly evil. I don't know.
I've got a really thin skin in that sense, to be fair. I'm a bit like, I can't cope with anyone being upset with me, disappointed with me.
Disappointed.
Yeah.
If I feel that if I feel like I failed someone or disappointed them, I'll be heartbroken for weeks, like really heartbroken. Just if it's just a bit of chatter.
It's wicked.
I enjoy it. I've let the secret out of the bag now, haven't I? Everyone's like, don't. She'll sit in the audience and say what you said back up there.
You outdid yourself. It's like Donna, right? So Donna, my business partner, she often says when she's like thinking, what are you on about, or I don't know how to deal with this, she'll go, oh, that's interesting. Right, to kind of buy herself some time. And I kind of said that on camera, and now I've kind of outed her phrase.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, saying something interesting is a good way of going, I don't agree with you. but okay.
But what about this? You know? Because you do come across a lot of viewpoints, and you don't want to be dismissive of people. And I think that the quickest way to shut down somebody engaging with you is to be kind of disrespectful or confrontational about something. So, for example, if you're training parents and one of them says, well, what about vaccines? You know, do vaccines cause autism? Yeah. And, you know, you'll go, okay, that's interesting. Let's think about that. And you kind of give yourself a pause, and then you present them with the other side without being, you know, it's hard though, isn't it? It's a skill, I think, that.
Not bad, plodding on, bit tired, trying to, I kind of thought lockdown, oh yes, this will be a nice holiday, anything but, because obviously when the work goes down, a lot of the advocacy and more voluntary or lower pay stuff rises to peak. So I'm a bit knackered, if I'm honest. The sun is shining. The time you can't go out and about too much. A little bit we can, but not too much. It's you know, a perfect pub garden weather. I don't even like pub gardens, but the minute that they're open, I'm going just because I can.
Yeah. to be honest with you, I think my internet as well has been throttled a fair bit lately. I got my partner and my daughter will be using the internet, and my daughter will be using about 3 devices at once, knowing her. So
there's the Xbox, then there's the iPad or the laptop, then there's their phone, and you know we have the similar sort of house numbers. And if everyone's doing that, you know, you're 8 devices in, aren't you? Before you
yeah,
and it's like everyone turn it off Netflix or whatever.
I know. I was in like his Microsoft Teams meeting earlier in the week, and I just could not get. And I've normally got pretty good internet, you know, it's the fastest we can get in this area. But I think the demand, because everyone's at home as well, it seems like the demand is just too much, and everybody's internet is just. Donna was walking around the house trying to do Zoom training, trying to find a spot, like going, "Boys, turn off your phones." But no,
I think it's quite nice because it's a bit of a leveler when we're doing things like this, because everyone's got to have perhaps a dog barking in the background or one of the kids yell for you, and actually it's quite. I find that quite comforting to go. Oh, it's not just me that's literally winging this, you know, because it's a bit.
Yeah. I think autistic people are more honest about winging it, though, don't you?
Corner. There's no. I don't have a desk, you know. So I think, you know, I think this is probably going to be the new normal anyway for a lot of things. So I'm certainly going to be, as soon as a few invoices come through, get myself a desk and perhaps a stand for my phone, because I'm just using my hand. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been